My fiancé's family laughed when they saw our backyard wedding setup. His mother actually called it embarrassing. But when a convoy of black SUVs pulled up 30 minutes before the ceremony, and the Vandermeer family stepped out, every single one of them went pale. Want to know why the richest family in America flew across the country to attend my pathetic wedding? I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. I'm Donna Campbell. And 3 weeks before what should have been the happiest day of my life, I found myself sitting in my future mother-in-law's pristine living room in Charleston, South Carolina, feeling about 2 inches tall. A backyard wedding. Patricia Whitmore repeated, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around a crystal wine glass. Donna, dear, the Whitmores have been married at the Cathedral of St. Luke for 4 generations. My fiancé, Marcus, shifted uncomfortably beside me on the cream-colored sofa. His father, Richard, stood by the marble fireplace, arms crossed, looking like he'd just swallowed something bitter. Mom, we've talked about this, Marcus said quietly. Donna and I want something intimate, personal. Patricia's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. Intimate. You mean cheap? I felt my face burn. The truth was, yes, we were on a budget. I worked as an elementary school teacher in North Charleston, pulling in $42,000 a year. Marcus was a graphic designer at a small firm downtown. Between us, we made decent money, but nothing close to the Whitmore standard. The Whitmores owned 3 luxury car dealerships across South Carolina and lived in a historic mansion in the Battery. Patricia played tennis at the country club every Tuesday and Thursday. Richard golfed with the heir. When Marcus and I started dating 2 years ago, I knew his family had money. What I didn't know was how much they'd hold it over us. We've already put down the deposit for my parents' house, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The ceremony will be in their garden. It's beautiful in June. All the magnolias will be blooming. A garden in North Charleston, Richard said, his tone making it sound like I'd suggested we get married in a parking lot. What will people think? People who love us will think it's lovely, I replied. Patricia set down her wine glass with a deliberate clink. I've already told the ladies at the club that Marcus is getting married this summer. Do you have any idea how humiliating it will be when they ask where, and I have to tell them it's some shabby backyard affair? Mom, that's enough, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. This had been the pattern for months. Every decision we made about the wedding got picked apart. The dress I found at a boutique in Mount Pleasant wasn't designer enough. The DJ we hired wasn't the live band they'd recommended. The flowers from the local florist weren't as prestigious as the ones from Atlanta, but we stood firm on the venue. My parents, Thomas and Ellen Campbell, had spent 30 years turning their half-acre property into something magical. My dad, a retired electrician, had built a wooden arbor with his own hands. My mom, who'd worked as a nurse before her retirement, had cultivated rose bushes, gardenias, and those magnificent magnolias. That house held every important moment of my childhood. I'd learned to ride my bike on that driveway, had birthday parties under those trees. It meant everything to me to start my marriage there. We appreciate your input, I said, standing up. But the decision is made. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Don't come crying to me when your wedding photos look like something from a county fair. Marcus drove me home in silence. When we pulled up to my apartment in West Ashley, he finally spoke. Maybe we should reconsider. The cathedral would make things easier with my family. I turned to look at him. Is that what you want? He rubbed his face with both hands. I want everyone to be happy. Your mother called my family's home shabby, Marcus. She called our wedding pathetic. She didn't say pathetic. She implied it with every word. I opened the car door. I'll see you tomorrow. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was being stubborn. Maybe Patricia was right. Maybe our simple backyard wedding would be an embarrassment. Maybe I was dragging Marcus down into my world of normal instead of rising up into his. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend since kindergarten, Jasmine Rodriguez. Don't you dare let that woman get in your head. Your wedding will be perfect, I smiled despite everything. Jasmine always knew when I was spiraling. The next 2 weeks were a blur of final preparations. My mom and I finalized the menu with the caterer, a local BBQ place that made the most incredible pulled pork. My dad strung lights through the trees. My younger brother, Kevin, built a small platform for the ceremony. Marcus's family didn't offer to help with anything. Patricia made it clear she wanted no association with what she called the production. Then, 5 days before the wedding, Marcus came over looking pale. "My mother is threatening not to come," he said. Slumping onto my couch, my stomach dropped. "What?" "She says she can't bear to watch her only son get married in what she keeps calling unfortunate circumstances. She wants us to postpone, save up, and do it properly next year at the cathedral." "Next year?" My voice came out sharper than intended. "We've sent invitations. People have made plans. The deposits are non-refundable." I know. He looked miserable. "But she's my mother, Donna. If she doesn't come, then she doesn't come," I said, even though my heart was breaking. "Marcus, we can't let her control us like this." He left without saying much else. I cried into my pillow that night, wondering how something that should bring joy had become so painful. 3 days before the wedding, I was setting up table arrangements in my parents' backyard when my phone rang. "Unknown number? Is this Donna Campbell?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Victoria Chen. I'm calling on behalf of the Vandermeer family. We understand you're getting married this Saturday?" I nearly dropped the phone. The Vandermeer family, as in Vandermeer Industries, as in the family worth somewhere north of $40 billion, as in the richest family in America. Yes. This Saturday. Why? "We'd like to discuss attending your wedding. Would you be available for a call this evening at 7? My mind went completely blank. "I'm sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I don't know anyone named Vandermeer. Actually, Ms. Campbell, they know you. Or rather, they know your grandmother. Would 7 o'clock work?" My grandmother? Eleanor Campbell had passed away 4 years ago. She'd been a quiet woman who'd worked her whole life as a seamstress in Charleston. "7 is fine," I heard myself say. Victoria Chen hung up, and I stood in my parents' backyard, holding my phone like it might explode. What on earth did the Vandermeer family want with my wedding? At exactly 7 o'clock, my phone rang. I'd spent the last 4 hours Googling everything I could find about the Vandermeer family and my grandmother, trying to make sense of the connection. Jonathan Vandermeer was the patriarch, 82 years old, founder of Vandermeer Industries, which had holdings in technology, real estate, and manufacturing across 6 continents. His daughter, Catherine Vandermeer Ross, ran the family's charitable foundation. The family was notoriously private despite their wealth. I couldn't find a single link between them and my grandmother. "Hello?" I answered, my hands shaking. "Ms. Campbell, this is Catherine Vandermeer Ross." The voice was warm, cultured, with the faintest hint of a Boston accent. "Thank you for taking my call." "Of course. Though I have to admit I'm completely confused about why you're calling." Catherine laughed softly. "I imagine you are. Let me explain. Your grandmother, Eleanor Campbell, worked as a seamstress in Charleston for many years, correct?" "Yes, she had a small shop on King Street. She did alterations, custom dresses, that sort of thing. In 1967, my late mother, Margaret Vandermeer, was visiting Charleston. She was pregnant with me at the time, and she had a rather unfortunate incident. She fell on some steps and tore her dress quite badly. She was supposed to attend a very important dinner that evening with my father. I listened, still not understanding where this was going. Your grandmother's shop happened to be nearby. My mother walked in, quite distressed, and explained the situation. The dress was a Dior original, extremely delicate fabric, intricate beadwork. Most seamstresses would have refused the job or done shoddy work under pressure. But my grandmother fixed it, I said quietly. She did more than fix it. My mother said Eleanor worked for 6 straight hours, refusing to take a break. She not only repaired the tear invisibly, but noticed and corrected several other issues with the garment's construction. When my mother offered to pay her handsomely, Eleanor charged her normal alteration fee and wouldn't accept a penny more. I felt tears prick my eyes. That sounded exactly like Grandma Eleanor. My mother never forgot that kindness, Catherine continued. She tried for years to find ways to help Eleanor, sent business her way, and recommended her to friends. But Eleanor was proud. She didn't want charity, just honest work. That sounds like her too. Before my mother passed away in 2019, she made me promise something. She'd kept track of Eleanor over the years, and she knew Eleanor had passed in 2021. My mother asked me to watch over Eleanor's family, to help if the opportunity arose naturally. Not with money. She knew Eleanor's granddaughter would likely have the same pride, but with presence. With respect, my breath caught. You want to come to my wedding? My father and I would be honored to attend if you'll have us. We understand it's extremely short notice and completely unconventional. But when our family assistant happened to see the wedding announcement in the Charleston Post and Courier, we felt it was the right moment. I sat down hard on my bed. Mrs. Vandermeer Ross, I don't know what to say. Please call me Catherine. And say yes. We promise to be unobtrusive guests. We simply want to honor the woman who showed my mother such kindness 60 years ago. I thought about Patricia Whitmore's sneering face, about Marcus's wavering support, about all the ways this wedding had been called inadequate. We'd be honored to have you, I said. Both of you? After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence for a full 10 minutes. Then I called my parents. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. The Vandermeer family? My father repeated, sounding like I'd told him the president was coming. Donna, are you absolutely sure this isn't some kind of scam? She knew specific details about Grandma's shop, Dad. Things you can't just Google. My mother was crying. Eleanor would have been so touched. She talked about that pregnant woman with the torn dress for years. She never knew who she was, just that she seemed kind despite being obviously wealthy. Should I tell Marcus? I asked. My parents exchanged a look. My mom spoke carefully. Maybe wait until after you've confirmed they're actually coming. You don't want to give the Whitmores ammunition if this falls through. She had a point. The next morning, Victoria Chen called again to arrange security details. Apparently, when the Vandermeer family traveled, they didn't do it quietly. We'll have a small security team, she explained. They'll arrive early to assess the venue. We want to ensure minimal disruption to your day. How small is small? I asked nervously. 4 agents. They'll be discreet, and the family will arrive approximately 30 minutes before the ceremony in a private convoy. Will that work with your timeline? I looked at my wedding schedule. Guests were arriving at 3. The ceremony started at 4. 3:30 would be perfect, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Excellent. We'll need the exact address, and I'll send over the security team leader's contact information. He'll coordinate with you directly. After I hung up, I realized I was hyperventilating. This was actually happening. The richest family in America was coming to my backyard wedding. On Thursday, the day before the wedding, I finally told Marcus. We were doing the rehearsal walkthrough in my parents' garden. You're joking, he said flatly. I'm not. Catherine Vandermeer Ross and her father Jonathan will be here tomorrow at 3:30. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Donna, that's insane. Why would they? I explained the whole story about my grandmother. Marcus listened, his expression cycling through disbelief, shock, and something else I couldn't quite read. Have you told my mother? He asked. No, I thought you might want to. He pulled out his phone immediately, stepping away to make the call. I watched his face as he spoke to Patricia and saw the moment her reaction came through. His eyes widened. When he came back, he looked dazed. She's coming to the wedding. What? My mother. She just said she wouldn't miss it for the world, and that she's so proud of us for planning such a unique, intimate celebration. I would have laughed if I wasn't so angry. So let me get this straight. When it was just us and our families, the wedding was pathetic. But now that billionaires are attending, suddenly it's unique and intimate? Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. Donna, it's fine. I cut him off, even though it wasn't fine at all. At least she'll be there. That night, Jasmine came over with wine and takeout. "This is the most insane thing I've ever heard," she said, refilling my glass. "It's like Cinderella, but you're not even trying to impress anyone and the fairy godmother shows up anyway." "I'm terrified," I admitted. "What if something goes wrong? What if the food isn't good enough or the decorations look cheap or—" "Stop." Jasmine grabbed my hands. "Your wedding was going to be beautiful before the Vandermeers ever called. Their presence doesn't change what you and Marcus built. Don't let this mess with your head." She was right, but I couldn't shake my nerves. Friday morning arrived bright and clear. My parents' garden looked like something from a fairy tale. The magnolias in full bloom, white chairs arranged in neat rows, the wooden arbor draped with silken flowers. At 2:00, a black SUV pulled up. 3 men in dark suits got out and introduced themselves as the Vandermeer security team. They were polite, professional, and surprisingly unintimidating. The team leader, a man named Robert Chen, Victoria's husband, apparently did a quick walk of the property. "Everything looks perfect," he said. "We'll position ourselves at the perimeter. You won't even know we're here." At 3:00, guests started arriving. I watched from my childhood bedroom window as cars filled the street. Friends from teaching, Marcus's colleagues, distant relatives, neighbors. And then, at exactly 3:30, a convoy of 3 black SUVs turned onto our quiet street. My heart stopped. This was really happening. From my bedroom window, I watched the 3 black SUVs glide to a stop in front of my parents' house. The security team moved with practiced precision, opening doors, scanning the area. Then Catherine Vandermeer Ross stepped out of the middle vehicle. She was probably in her mid-50s, wearing an elegant navy dress that probably cost more than my car. But what struck me wasn't the obvious wealth. It was her warm smile as she looked at the garden, at the lights strung through the magnolia trees, at my dad's handmade arbor. An older man emerged next, moving carefully with a polished wooden cane. Jonathan Vandermeer. Even at 82, he had the bearing of someone who'd commanded boardrooms for 6 decades. My mom knocked softly on my door. "Donna, they're here." "I know." "I'm watching. Your father is greeting them now. Are you ready to come down?" I smoothed my hands over my wedding dress, the one Patricia had called adequate, and nodded. "Let's go." Downstairs, I found my father standing with the Vandermeers near the arbor. He looked simultaneously proud and terrified. "Mr. Campbell," Jonathan was saying, "this craftsmanship is exceptional. You built this yourself?" "Yes, sir, over about 3 months. Used reclaimed oak from an old barn in Somerville." "Remarkable." Jonathan ran his hand along one of the posts. "You can't buy work like this. It requires patience and genuine care." Catherine turned as I approached, and her face lit up. "You must be Donna. Oh, my dear, you look absolutely radiant." She embraced me like we were old friends, and I caught the faint scent of jasmine perfume. "Thank you so much for coming," I managed. "This means more than you know." "Thank you for having us." She pulled back, her eyes bright. "Your grandmother would be so proud of the woman you've become." Jonathan extended his hand. "Miss Campbell, I never had the privilege of meeting Eleanor, but my late wife spoke of her often over the years. She said Eleanor had the rarest quality, integrity that couldn't be purchased or persuaded." I felt tears threatening and blinked them back. "She was the best person I ever knew." "The best people rarely realize it about themselves," Jonathan said gently. A commotion near the driveway made us all turn. Patricia Whitmore had arrived, and she'd apparently spotted the Vandermeer convoy. She was striding across the lawn in a silver designer gown and heels that immediately sank into the grass. "Oh no," I whispered. Patricia's entire demeanor had transformed. Gone was the sour disapproval, replaced by a smile so wide it looked painful. "You must be the Vandermeer family," she called out, arms outstretched like she was greeting beloved relatives. "I'm Patricia Whitmore, mother of the groom. We are so absolutely honored and delighted to have you at this intimate family celebration." I watched Catherine's expression carefully. Her smile didn't waver, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, perhaps, of exactly what was happening. "How lovely to meet you," Catherine said politely. "You must be very proud of Marcus." "Oh, tremendously proud. You know, Marcus and Donna wanted this small, personal wedding from the start. I said to Richard, 'That's my husband.' I said, 'The most meaningful celebrations are the ones that come from the heart, not the wallet.'" Patricia laughed, a tinkling sound I'd never heard from her before. My father looked like he might say something, but my mother grabbed his arm. "Indeed," Catherine replied smoothly, "though I imagine you were supportive of whatever venue they chose." Patricia's smile tightened fractionally. "Absolutely. This garden is so charming. Very rustic chic, as they say." "I'd call it perfect," Jonathan interjected, his tone brooking no argument. "Some of the most pretentious weddings I've attended were in marble cathedrals with 500 guests. All spectacle, no soul. This," he gestured around the garden, "this has a soul." Patricia's face went through several interesting color changes. "Of course, that's what I meant. Soul. Yes." Marcus appeared then, looking nervous in his suit. His eyes went wide when he saw the Vandermeers. "Mr. and Mrs. Vandermeer Ross, Mr. Vandermeer," he stammered. "Thank you for coming." "The honor is ours," Catherine said warmly, shaking his hand. "Donna tells me you're a graphic designer?" "Yes, ma'am. Mostly corporate branding and web design. Fascinating field. We're always looking for creative talent at the foundation. Here." She pulled a business card from her small clutch. "Send me your portfolio. I'd love to see your work." Marcus took the card like it might disintegrate. "I thank you." "I will." More guests had noticed Vandermeer's arrival. I could see phones being discreetly pulled out, whispered conversations spreading through the crowd like wildfire. Mrs. Henderson from next door looked like she might faint. Jasmine materialized at my elbow. "Okay, this is officially the craziest thing that's ever happened in Charleston." "Tell me about it," I muttered. Also, did Patricia Whitmore really just claim she supported this backyard wedding from the beginning? Because I'm pretty sure I heard her call it unfortunate circumstances last week. People have short memories when billionaires show up. Catherine must have overheard because she caught my eye and gave me a small, knowing smile. The next 20 minutes were a blur of introductions. The Vandermeers greeted every single person with genuine warmth, asking questions, remembering names. Jonathan spent 10 minutes talking to my Uncle Frank about his antique car restoration hobby. Catherine admired my mother's rose bushes and got the names of all the varieties. They weren't performing for the crowd. This was just who they were, wealthy beyond imagination, yet somehow more gracious than people with a fraction of their resources. Richard Whitmore cornered Jonathan near the beverage table, clearly attempting to discuss business. I watched Jonathan politely extract himself after about 30 seconds. "The man tried to pitch me on investing in his car dealerships," Jonathan said quietly to Catherine as he returned. "At his son's wedding," Catherine sighed. "Some people never learn that there's a time and place." At 3:55, my wedding coordinator, my friend Sarah from the teachers' union who was doing this as a favor, signaled that it was time to start. The guests settled into their seats. The string quartet we'd hired, 4 music students from the College of Charleston who charged a quarter of what professionals wanted, began playing. I stood at the back of the garden with my father, my heart hammering. "You ready, sweetheart?" Dad asked. I'm marrying Marcus in front of the richest family in America, while his mother pretends she didn't spend 3 months trashing this whole thing. "So, just another Friday." Dad laughed and squeezed my hand. "Your grandma's looking down right now, and she's laughing her head off at all of this. She'd tell me to ignore the nonsense and focus on what matters." Smart woman. "Your grandmother." The music shifted to the wedding march. Dad and I started down the aisle, which was really just a path between the white folding chairs we'd rented. As we walked, I saw everyone stand. I saw Marcus at the arbor, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. I saw my mom crying happy tears. I saw Jasmine grinning and wiping her eyes. And I saw Catherine and Jonathan Vandermeer standing with everyone else, their faces reflecting genuine joy. Patricia Whitmore was also standing, smiling broadly, as if she hadn't spent months making me feel like I wasn't good enough for her son. But you know what? At that moment, I didn't care. Because I was walking through a garden my family had built with their own hands, toward a man I loved, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us. The validation felt good. I won't lie. Watching Patricia scramble to rewrite history, seeing the shock on the faces of people who'd pitied my budget wedding, knowing that Monday's society page would be talking about this for months, it was satisfying. But the real victory was simpler than that. I'd stood my ground. I'd insisted on having my wedding my way, in the place that mattered to me, regardless of what anyone thought, and somehow, the universe had rewarded that authenticity. As I reached the arbor and Dad placed my hand in Marcus's, I caught Catherine's eye. She gave me a small nod, and I understood what she was really saying. Your grandmother was right about you. You have the same integrity. The ceremony was about to begin, and I had no idea that the biggest surprise of the day was still coming. Pastor Williams from my childhood church stood before us at the arbor, his familiar face creased with a warm smile. He'd baptized me, confirmed me, and now he was about to marry me. Dearly beloved, he began, and the garden fell silent except for the rustle of magnolia leaves in the breeze. The ceremony was simple, no elaborate scripts or choreographed moments. Marcus and I had written our own vows, and when it came time to recite them, I felt the whole world narrow down to just us. Donna, Marcus said, his voice shaking slightly, I promise to support your dreams, even when I don't fully understand them. I promise to stand beside you, not in front of or behind you, and I promise that our home will always be a place where you feel valued and heard. That last part hit differently, given the past 3 months. I saw his eyes flick briefly toward his mother, then back to me. My turn. Marcus, I promise to love you for who you are, not who anyone expects you to be. I promise to build a life with you based on what we want, not what looks impressive to others. And I promise that no matter what challenges we face, we'll face them as equals. I squeezed his hands, and he squeezed back. Pastor Williams led us through the traditional exchange of rings. When he finally said, I now pronounce you husband and wife, the garden erupted in applause. Marcus kissed me, and for that perfect moment, everything else fell away. As we walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, I caught sight of Catherine wiping her eyes. Even Jonathan looked misty. Patricia was applauding enthusiastically, but I noticed she'd positioned herself to be in several guests' photo backgrounds. The reception was set up on the other side of the garden. String lights created a canopy over the tables. The BBQ caterers had set up their station, and the smell of pulled pork and smoked brisket filled the air. I half expected her to hire a new caterer at the last minute, Jasmine whispered as we watched Patricia examine the food table. She probably would have if she'd had more notice about the Vandermeers, I replied. The first surprise came when we cut the cake, a simple 3-tier vanilla and buttercream creation from my mom's favorite bakery. This is exceptional, Jonathan said after his first bite. What bakery? Sweet Caroline's on Folly Road, my mom said proudly. Beth Morrison has owned it for 30 years. Jonathan pulled out his phone and made a note. I'm hosting a charity gala in October. I'll be calling Ms. Morrison. My mother looked like she might cry again. Beth Morrison was a single mom who'd built that bakery from nothing and barely kept it afloat during the pandemic. The second surprise came during dinner. Catherine approached our table with a wrapped box. I hope you don't mind, but we brought a small gift. You didn't have to do that, I protested. We wanted to. She set the box down. Open it later in private. But I wanted to explain its significance now. Marcus and I exchanged glances. Catherine sat down in the empty chair beside us. After my mother died, we were going through her personal effects. She kept journals her entire life, beautiful leather-bound books where she recorded memories, thoughts, important moments. Catherine's voice grew softer. In her 1967 journal, She wrote extensively about her trip to Charleston, about being pregnant with me and terrified something had happened to the baby when she fell, about the ruined dress and the dinner she couldn't miss, and about a seamstress named Eleanor Campbell who worked magic. I felt tears starting again. But there was more. My mother wrote that while Eleanor worked on the dress, they talked. Eleanor mentioned she was saving money for her daughter's education. She wanted her daughter to be a nurse to help people. That was my mother, I said softly. She became a nurse, worked at Charleston Memorial for 35 years. Catherine nodded. My mother was so moved by Eleanor's dedication to her daughter's future that she did something unusual. She set up a small scholarship fund at the Medical University of South Carolina in Eleanor's name. It wasn't publicized. My mother wanted it to be anonymous. But for the past 55 years, that fund has helped put young people through nursing school. I couldn't speak. Marcus grabbed my hand. In the box, Catherine continued, are copies of Eleanor's journal entry and some letters from scholarship recipients over the years. We thought you should know the ripple effect of your grandmother's kindness. She helped my mother with a dress. My mother helped others pursue Eleanor's same dream of education and service. I don't know what to say, I managed. Say you'll keep her memory alive. Catherine smiled. That's all my mother would have wanted. After Catherine returned to her table, Marcus and I sat in stunned silence. Your grandmother was incredible, he said finally. She was just herself. That's what made her incredible. The evening continued with toasts. Jasmine gave a hilarious speech about our childhood misadventures. Marcus's best man, his college roommate Derek, shared stories about Marcus's early dating disasters before meeting me. Then Richard Whitmore stood up. I'd like to say a few words about my son and his beautiful bride. I braced myself, unsure what was coming. When Marcus first told us about Donna, I'll be honest, I had concerns. Richard's voice carried across the garden. She came from a different world than ours. Different background, different expectations. Marcus tensed beside me. But watching them together tonight, in this beautiful garden that her family created with their own hands, surrounded by people who genuinely love them, I realized my concerns were backwards. Richard paused. Donna didn't need to come up to our world. Marcus needed to come back down to earth, to remember what actually matters. Patricia's smile had frozen on her face. To Donna and Marcus, Richard raised his glass. May your marriage be built on the same authentic foundation as this wedding. Everyone drank, and I saw Patricia lean over to hiss something at Richard. He ignored her. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, the string quartet played their final set. Marcus and I had our first dance to The Way You Look Tonight, not trendy or unique, but it was our song. Halfway through, other couples joined us. My parents, still moving together like they had for 40 years. Jonathan offered his arm to Catherine with old-fashioned courtliness. Even Richard and Patricia, though they looked stiff and uncomfortable. When the song ended, Jonathan approached us. I wonder if I might steal a moment with you both, he said. Somewhere quiet? We walked to a corner of the garden, away from the crowd. The security team maintained a discreet perimeter. I want to be direct with you, because I respect your intelligence too much for games, Jonathan began. Your wedding today reminded me of something I'd forgotten, that the most valuable things in life can't be bought. This garden, your family's love, the community you've built, none of that came from money. He looked at Marcus. Catherine mentioned you're a graphic designer. What are your long-term goals? Marcus blinked, caught off guard. Honestly, sir, I'd love to start my own design agency someday. Focus on branding for nonprofits and small businesses that can't afford big firms. Interesting. Most young designers want to work for major corporations. I did that for a year right out of college. It felt hollow. I want my work to matter. Jonathan nodded slowly. The Vandermeer Foundation is launching a new initiative to support small businesses in underserved communities. We need a full rebrand. Website, materials, visual identity. Would you be interested in pitching for the contract? Marcus looked like he might fall over. Are you serious? I never joke about business. Send your portfolio to Catherine by Wednesday. If we like what we see, we'll bring you in for a formal presentation. Thank you, Marcus said, his voice barely working. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. If your work isn't excellent, you won't get the job. But something tells me it will be. Jonathan smiled. Your wife chose you for a reason. She strikes me as someone with impeccable judgment. After Jonathan walked away, Marcus turned to me with wide eyes. Did that just happen? I think it did. This is insane. This whole day is insane, I laughed. Welcome to married life with me. Apparently, it comes with unexpected billionaire connections. As the evening wore on and guests began to leave, I found myself standing with my parents, watching the last of the sun disappear behind the trees. Your grandmother would have loved this, my dad said quietly. She's here, my mom added. I feel her. And somehow, in that garden filled with lights and laughter and love, I felt her too. Sunday morning, I woke up in a hotel room in downtown Charleston, the honeymoon suite at the Harbor View Inn that Marcus's parents had booked for us months ago. Back when they'd assumed we'd be getting married at the cathedral and needed somewhere prestigious for the wedding night. My phone was exploding. Jasmine had texted at 6 a.m. Girl, you're on page 6. I sat up so fast I nearly woke Marcus. What? Page 6. The New York Post's gossip column. I opened the link with shaking hands. There it was. A photo of Catherine and Jonathan Vandermeer standing in my parents' garden, champagne glasses raised. The headline read, America's most private billionaires attend simple Charleston wedding. Here's why. The article was surprisingly respectful. It mentioned the connection to my grandmother, described the wedding as intimate and elegant, and quoted an unnamed source saying the Vandermeers had been genuinely moved by the celebration. But it was the comments section that made my stomach drop. Hundreds of people were speculating about who I was, why the Vandermeers had come, whether this was some kind of social climbing scheme. Some comments were kind. Most were brutal. Gold digger alert. She probably staged the whole grandmother story. Must be nice to marry into money and get billionaire friends as a bonus. I locked my phone and set it face down on the nightstand. Marcus stirred beside me. What time is it? 7:30. Go back to sleep. Can't. I've been awake for an hour thinking about Jonathan's offer. He propped himself up on one elbow. Do you think he was serious? Or was that just rich people being polite? He seemed serious to me. I need to put together the best portfolio presentation of my life. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. What if I screw this up? Then you'll have tried. That's more than most people get. I turned to face him. Marcus, can I ask you something? Of course. Your dad's toast last night. What he said about me coming from a different world and you needing to come back down to earth. Did you know he was going to say that? Marcus shook his head. I had no idea. I think he genuinely meant it, though. I saw him and my mom arguing after. What do you think changed his mind? Honestly, I think seeing the Vandermeers treat your family with so much respect made him realize he'd been acting like a snob. It's hard to maintain your superiority complex when actual billionaires are being humble. I wanted to believe that. But part of me suspected Richard's change of heart was less about personal growth and more about not wanting to look bad in front of influential people. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. Honey, there are reporters outside our house. 3 news vans. What do we do? Oh no, I breathed. Marcus looked over my shoulder at the text. Seriously? I called my mom immediately. Are you okay? Are they bothering you? They're just parked on the street so far. One woman knocked on the door asking for an interview. Your father told her to leave. Don't talk to any of them, Mom, and don't let them on the property. Donna, what's happening? Why are they here? I explained about the page 6 article. My mom was silent for a long moment. Your grandmother would have hated this attention, she said finally. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. I just wish people could let you have your happiness without turning it into a spectacle. After we hung up, Marcus and I spent an hour reading articles and social media posts. The story had spread fast. Local Charleston news had picked it up. A few national outlets were running pieces, most focused on the Vandermeer angle. Billionaires at backyard weddings, unprecedented public appearance, mysterious connection to unknown seamstress. But some had started digging into my life. They'd found my school's website, pulled my photo from the staff directory, and located my social media accounts. I felt exposed in a way I'd never experienced. "We should probably get ahead of this," Marcus said. "Make some kind of statement." Saying what? "Please leave us alone, we're just regular people?" That never works. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Donna, it's Catherine Vandermeer Ross. I hope I'm not calling too early." "No, not at all." "We're awake. I'm calling to apologize. The media attention was not our intention, and I take full responsibility. We should have anticipated that our presence would create interest." "It's not your fault," I said quickly. "You were just being kind." Nevertheless, I wanted to offer our support. Our family has dealt with unwanted media attention for decades. We have people who can help. Publicists, lawyers if needed. If you'd like assistance managing this, please don't hesitate to ask. The offer was generous, but something about it made me uncomfortable. Accepting more help from the Vandermeers felt like it would only fuel the gold digger narrative. "Thank you, but I think we'll be okay." "It'll blow over in a few days, right?" "It should," Catherine agreed, though she sounded uncertain. "But Donna, please know the offer stands. And regardless of what the press says, yesterday was one of the most genuine celebrations I've attended in years. Don't let cynical strangers take that away from you." After that call, Marcus and I decided to venture out for breakfast. The hotel restaurant felt too formal, so we walked to a small cafe on Market Street that we loved. Big mistake. We'd barely sat down when someone at the next table leaned over. "Excuse me, are you the couple from that wedding?" "With the Vandermeers?" I froze. Yes?" The woman's face lit up. "Oh my God, I have to get a picture. My friends will never believe this." Before I could respond, she'd pulled out her phone and taken a selfie with us in the background. Then she posted it to Instagram. I watched her type the caption, "Just casually having breakfast next to Charleston's most famous newlyweds. Vandermeer Wedding Charleston Society." We left without ordering. "This is going to be our life now, isn't it?" Marcus said as we hurried back to the hotel. "People recognizing us, wanting photos, making assumptions. Only until something more interesting happens. We're not actually famous. We're adjacent to famous people." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I believed it. Back at the hotel, I opened the gift box Catherine had given us the night before. Inside were the photocopied pages from her mother's 1967 journal. The handwriting was elegant and precise. May 15th, 1967. "Today I met an angel in Charleston. Her name is Eleanor Campbell, and she saved me from what would have been a humiliating disaster. But more than that, she reminded me that wealth means nothing if you don't have character. She charged me $12 for work that would have cost hundreds anywhere else, and she did it with such care and pride. I've decided to do something in her honor, a small scholarship fund for nursing students. Eleanor dreams of her daughter becoming a nurse someday. Perhaps this fund will help other daughters achieve the same dream." Tears blurred my vision. My grandmother had no idea that the pregnant woman she'd helped would go on to impact hundreds of lives in her name. There were letters, too. Dozens of them, from scholarship recipients over the decades, nurses who'd gone on to work in underserved communities, in disaster zones, in research positions developing new treatments. All of them had received money from the Eleanor Campbell Scholarship Fund, though none had known who Eleanor Campbell was. "She made a difference without ever knowing it," Marcus said softly, reading over my shoulder. "That's the best kind of difference to make." My phone rang again. This time it was Jasmine. "Okay, so I know you're probably overwhelmed, but you need to see what Patricia Whitmore posted on Facebook." "Oh God, what now?" "Just look." I pulled up Patricia's Facebook page. Her latest post, made 20 minutes ago, featured a photo of her with Catherine Vandermeer Ross at the wedding. The caption read, So blessed to celebrate my son Marcus's wedding to his beautiful bride Donna yesterday. What made the day extra special was welcoming dear family friends Catherine and Jonathan Vandermeer to this intimate celebration. True wealth is measured in relationships, not dollars. Feeling grateful. I order family first. Simple elegance. Charleston wedding. Dear family friends. I read aloud in disbelief. She met them yesterday. It gets better, Jasmine said. Read the comments, I scrolled down. Patricia had responded to several comments, each response carefully crafted to suggest a long-standing relationship with the Vandermeers. She mentioned catching up with Catherine and how Jonathan had always been such a gentleman. It was pure fiction. Should I say something? I asked Marcus, like what? Actually, my mother-in-law is lying about knowing billionaires. That'll go over great. He had a point. The rest of Sunday passed in a blur. We were supposed to leave for our honeymoon, a week in Savannah, on Monday morning, but both of us were too rattled to think about vacation. By evening, the story had started to fade from the news cycle. A celebrity divorce and a political scandal had taken over the headlines. The reporters left my parents' house. Marcus spent hours working on his portfolio for the Vandermeer Foundation pitch. I helped him select his best projects, write descriptions, organize everything into a professional presentation. What if they only offered this because they felt obligated? Marcus asked for the 10th time. Then they wouldn't have asked for a formal pitch. Stop doubting yourself. At midnight, he finally sent the portfolio to Catherine's email address. We sat staring at the laptop screen after he hit send, as if we could make a response into existence. Now we wait, Marcus said. Now we wait, I agreed. Neither of us slept much that night. Tuesday morning, Catherine's assistant Victoria called. Mr. Vandermeer and Mrs. Vandermeer Ross reviewed Marcus's portfolio. They'd like him to come in for a presentation this Friday at 10 a.m. The Vandermeer Foundation office is in Boston. Marcus turned pale. Boston this Friday? Yes, they're quite impressed with his work and want to move quickly. Will that timing work? Absolutely, Marcus said, his voice cracking slightly. Friday at 10. I'll be there. After Victoria hung up, Marcus looked at me with wild eyes. I have 3 days to prepare a presentation for one of the wealthiest families in America. You can do this. What if I freeze up? What if my ideas are terrible? What if, Marcus, I grabbed his shoulders. You're talented. That's not me being your wife, that's an objective fact. Your rebrand for that homeless shelter last year was brilliant. Your work for the Children's Literacy Foundation won an award. You know how to make nonprofits look professional and approachable. This is what you do. He took a deep breath. Okay. I need to research the Vandermeer Foundation, understand their mission, develop 3 different branding concepts, create mock-ups, make a list. Break it into steps. You've got this. The next 3 days were intense. Marcus barely slept, working 16-hour days on his presentation. I helped where I could, proofreading copy, offering feedback on designs, making sure he ate actual meals instead of living on coffee and stress. On Thursday night, we flew to Boston. Marcus's hands shook the entire flight. The Vandermeer Foundation headquarters occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower in the financial district. When we arrived Friday morning, a receptionist escorted us to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. They'll be with you shortly, she said. Can I get you anything? Water, coffee? Water would be great, I said, since Marcus seemed incapable of speech. 5 minutes later, Catherine entered, followed by Jonathan and 2 other people, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a younger man taking notes. Marcus, Donna, thank you for coming. Catherine shook our hands warmly. This is Rebecca Torres, our Director of Communications, and James Liu, our brand manager. They'll be sitting in on the presentation. Marcus set up his laptop with trembling fingers. I wanted to hold his hand but knew that would only make him more nervous. Whenever you're ready, Jonathan said, settling into a chair. Marcus clicked his first slide. Thank you for this opportunity. I've spent the last few days studying the Vandermeer Foundation's work, and I'm genuinely moved by your mission. Supporting small businesses in underserved communities isn't just charitable. It's smart economics and social justice combined. Good start. His voice was steadying. Currently, your visual identity doesn't reflect the dynamism of that mission. The logo is formal, traditional. It positions you as benefactors rather than partners. My proposal is to rebrand around the concept of elevation without condescension. He clicked through slides showing his research, mood boards, and competitor analysis. Then he revealed his 3 concept directions. The first was bold and modern, bright colors, geometric shapes, emphasis on upward momentum. The second was warm and community-focused, earth tones, hand-drawn elements, approachable typography. The third balanced both, sophisticated but accessible, professional but human. Rebecca leaned forward during the third concept. Can you show us how this would work across different applications? Marcus pulled up mock-ups he'd created, website designs, grant materials, social media templates, even a mock storefront for foundation-supported businesses. He'd thought of everything. The key is consistency without rigidity, Marcus explained. The brand should feel like a trusted partner, not an institution handing down favors. Every touchpoint should communicate respect for the entrepreneurs you're supporting. 20 minutes into what was supposed to be a 30-minute presentation, Jonathan raised his hand. Marcus stopped mid-sentence, looking terrified. Yes, sir? How soon could you start? Marcus blinked. I'm sorry? We want to hire you. Not just for this rebrand. We want you to head our entire creative direction. Full-time position, competitive salary, benefits, team of designers under you. Jonathan looked at Catherine. Unless you have objections? Catherine was smiling. None whatsoever. This is exactly what we needed. Rebecca nodded. Your understanding of nonprofit branding is sophisticated. Most designers either make us look too corporate or too unsophisticated. This hits the perfect balance. Marcus looked like he might pass out. I don't know what to say. Say yes, I whispered. Yes, Marcus repeated louder. Absolutely yes. The next hour was a blur of logistics. Victoria came in with employment contracts. A salary was discussed, more than Marcus and I had made combined in Charleston. Relocation assistance to Boston. Start date in 4 weeks to give us time to move. As we left the building, Marcus was in a daze. Did that just happen? That just happened. I have to call my parents. He pulled out his phone right there on the sidewalk and dialed. I heard Patricia answer on the second ring. Mom? It's Marcus. I got the job. Full-time creative director for the Vandermeer Foundation. Patricia's shriek was audible even without a speakerphone. That's wonderful. Oh, Marcus, I'm so proud of you. Wait until I tell the ladies at the club. Mom, I need to say something. Marcus's voice was firmer than I'd heard it in months. This opportunity happened because Donna insisted we have our wedding the way we wanted it. If we'd done things your way, the cathedral, the fancy venue, the Vandermeers wouldn't have come. We wouldn't have connected with them. None of this would have happened. Silence on the other end. Donna was right, Marcus continued. About the wedding, about staying true to ourselves, about not letting other people's expectations dictate our choices. I should have stood up for her more strongly, and I'm sorry I didn't. Marcus, Patricia started. I'm not finished. You spent months making Donna feel like she wasn't good enough for our family. You called her wedding pathetic. You tried to control every decision we made. That ends now. Donna is my wife, and she deserves your respect. If you can't give her that, then we're going to have a problem. I stared at my husband, barely recognizing this version of him. Of course I respect Donna, Patricia said stiffly. No, you haven't, but you can start now. We're moving to Boston in a month. We'd love for you and Dad to visit once we're settled, but only if you can treat both of us with dignity. Another long pause. Then, I'll work on that. Good. I'll call you later with more details. Love you, Mom. He hung up and looked at me. How was that? That was perfect. We walked toward the harbor, still processing everything. The skyline of Boston stretched before us. A new city, a new job, a new chapter. Are you okay with moving? Marcus asked suddenly. I got so caught up in the excitement, I didn't even ask if you wanted to leave Charleston. Are you kidding? This is an incredible opportunity for you. But your teaching job, your family, your friends. We'll still be there when we visit. And Marcus, I'm a teacher. I can find a job anywhere. You just landed your dream position with one of the most respected foundations in the country. We're going to Boston. He pulled me into a hug right there on the busy sidewalk. I don't deserve you. You're right. You deserve better. But you're stuck with me now, he laughed. And I felt the tension of the past week finally start to drain away. We spent the rest of the day exploring Boston, walking the Freedom Trail, eating cannoli in the North End, imagining what our life here might look like. It felt surreal, like we'd stepped into someone else's story. That night, back in our hotel room, I called my parents. Boston, my mother said. Oh, honey, that's so far. I know. But it's only a 2-hour flight. And you and Dad have always talked about visiting New England in the fall. We're happy for you, my dad said, though I could hear the sadness in his voice. Both of you. This is a big opportunity. It wouldn't have happened without Grandma Eleanor, I said. Her kindness 60 years ago set all of this in motion. She'd be so proud of you, sweetheart. Not because you're moving to Boston, or because Marcus got this fancy job. She'd be proud because you stayed true to yourself. After we hung up, I thought about that. My grandmother had lived her whole life in Charleston, working in a small shop, helping people with alterations and repairs. She'd never made more than a modest income, never traveled extensively, never sought recognition or fame, but she'd lived with integrity. She'd treated everyone with kindness, regardless of their status. She'd valued honest work over easy money, and somehow, that simple way of living had rippled forward through decades, touching lives she'd never know about, creating opportunities she couldn't have imagined. The scholarship fund had helped hundreds of nurses. Catherine's mother had never forgotten her kindness. And now, because I'd honored my grandmother's memory by insisting on an authentic wedding, Marcus had landed his dream job. What are you thinking about? Marcus asked, noticing my distant expression. Just how strange life is. How one small act of kindness can echo through time in ways we never see. Your grandmother didn't fix a dress that day. She made an impression. That's what lasted. I looked at my husband, this man who'd finally found his spine, who'd stood up to his mother, who'd earned his opportunity through genuine talent and hard work. We're going to be okay, I said. We're going to be better than okay, Marcus replied. We're going to build something real. And for the first time since the wedding, I believed it completely. Boston in November was nothing like Charleston. The wind off the harbor cut through my coat as I walked from the subway to Marcus's office building. Dead leaves skittered across the sidewalk, and I could see my breath in the air. I still wasn't used to the cold, but I was getting there. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. How's the frozen north treating you? I smiled and typed back. I bought my first real winter coat yesterday. I'm officially a northerner now, traitor. When are you coming home for Christmas? December 20th, already counting down. The past 6 months have been a whirlwind. We'd moved to Boston in late May, found an apartment in Jamaica Plain with actual character. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, and a landlord who reminded me of my dad. I'd gotten a teaching position at an elementary school in Roxbury, working with kids who reminded me why I'd chosen this profession in the first place. Marcus had thrown himself into his work at the Vandermeer Foundation. The rebrand was launching next month, and he'd built a small team of designers who shared his vision. He came home energized instead of drained, talking about projects that actually mattered. But the real changes were subtler. Marcus had started saying no to his mother. When Patricia called suggesting we fly down for random weekend visits, he politely declined and proposed less frequent trips instead. When she tried to offer unsolicited advice about our apartment, our jobs, our lives, he thanked her and ignored it. The first few times were hard. Patricia wasn't used to boundaries, and she pushed back. But Marcus held firm, and eventually, she adapted. I reached Marcus's building and took the elevator to the 14th floor. The Vandermeer Foundation offices were nothing like I'd expected. Open, collaborative, filled with natural light. People worked at standing desks, collaborated in casual meeting spaces, and actually seemed to enjoy being there. Marcus was in a conference room with his team, reviewing mock-ups on a large screen. Through the glass wall, I saw him laugh at something one of the designers said, then lean forward to point out a detail. He looked happy. "I'm really happy." Catherine spotted me in the hallway. "Donna, what brings you there?" "Surprising my husband for lunch." "Is that allowed?" "Highly encouraged. He's been here since 6:30 this morning." She lowered her voice. "We're trying to teach him about work-life balance, but he's stubborn." "Tell me about it." Marcus emerged from the conference room, his face lighting up when he saw me. "Hey, what are you doing here?" "Rescuing you from yourself." "Come on, there's a new sandwich place around the corner I want to try." 20 minutes later, we were sitting in a tiny cafe, steam rising from our bowls of soup. "How are the kids today?" Marcus asked, chaotic. "We're doing a unit on immigration, and one of my students brought in photos of her grandmother coming through Ellis Island. It led to this incredible discussion about family histories and journeys." I paused. I told them about Grandma Eleanor and the dress. "What did they say?" One kid asked if Eleanor was famous. I said no, but she did something more important. She was kind when it mattered. Then another kid said her abuela always says the same thing about kindness being better than fame. Marcus smiled. "Your students are lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have them." My phone buzzed. My mother, right on schedule for her weekly check-in call. "Hi, Mom. I'm at lunch with Marcus. Can I call you back?" "Oh, good, you're both there. Your father and I have news. We're coming to visit next month. We've booked a hotel near your apartment for a week." "Mom, that's amazing." "But you don't need a hotel. We have a guest room." "Nonsense. You're newlyweds. You need your space. Besides, your father has always wanted to see Boston properly. We're going to play tourist." After promising to send them a list of things to do, I hung up and found Marcus grinning. "Your parents in Boston. That'll be fun. My dad wants to see all the Revolutionary War sites. We're going to walk the Freedom Trail about 17 times. Worth it." We finished lunch and walked slowly back to his office, taking the long route through the common. The trees were bare, but the park still had a stark beauty. "I've been thinking," Marcus said carefully. "About Thanksgiving? What about it?" "My parents want us to come to Charleston. Your parents want us there too. But maybe we should host here instead. Start our own traditions?" I stopped walking. "Really? We're married now. We're building our own life. Maybe it's time to stop always going back to our families and invite them into our world instead. Your mother will hate that idea." "Probably. But she'll get over it." He took my hand. "What do you think?" "I think that sounds perfect. We hosted Thanksgiving. My parents flew up, thrilled to see our apartment and meet our friends. Marcus's parents came too, though Patricia spent the first hour commenting on how small Boston apartments were compared to Charleston houses. But then something unexpected happened. My mother and Patricia ended up in our tiny kitchen together, helping prepare dishes. I heard them talking, actual conversation, not forced pleasantries. "You raised a wonderful son," my mother said. "He treats Donna like an equal partner." "That's rare." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "She's good for him." "I didn't see it at first, but she is." "She loves him," my mom continued. "Not his family's money or status. Just him. I know that now. It wasn't a dramatic reconciliation. Patricia didn't suddenly become warm and fuzzy. But it was a start." During dinner, Jonathan, who'd also been invited, raised his glass. "I'd like to make a toast. To Eleanor Campbell, who we never knew but whose influence has touched everyone at this table. And to Donna and Marcus, who are honoring her legacy by building a life based on authenticity rather than appearances. Here." "Here," my father said, his voice thick with emotion. After dinner, Catherine pulled me aside. "I have something to show you." She opened her bag and pulled out a leather-bound journal, different from the photocopies she'd given us at the wedding. This was my mother's final journal. She wrote in it until about a week before she passed. Catherine opened to a marked page. This entry is from December 2018. I read the elegant handwriting. I've been thinking about Eleanor Campbell again. Strange how one afternoon 60 years ago has stayed with me so vividly. I hired investigators to track down what became of her. I know it's intrusive, but I needed to know if she had the good life she deserved. She did. Married to a kind man, raised 3 children, all of whom found meaningful work. She never sought fame or fortune, never complained about her modest circumstances. She just lived with quiet dignity. I hope when I'm gone, someone remembers me with half the warmth I feel when I think of her. True wealth isn't money. It's living a life that ripples forward with kindness. Tears streamed down my face. Thank you for sharing this. Your grandmother left more than you know. The scholarship fund has helped over 300 nurses since 1967. Many of them have written to say they wouldn't have had careers without it. That's 300 people helping thousands more. All because Eleanor was kind to a pregnant woman having a bad day. Later that night, after everyone had left and Marcus and I were cleaning up, I found myself thinking about the past 7 months. The wedding that was supposed to be pathetic had changed everything. Not because billionaires showed up. That was just coincidence. But because we'd insisted on doing it our way, on honoring what mattered to us, on staying authentic even when people looked down on us for it. That choice had revealed who Marcus could become when he stopped trying to please everyone. It had shown me my own strength. It had brought unexpected connections and opportunities, yes, but more importantly, it had proven that we could build a life on our own terms. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Just how weird life is. 6 months ago, we were in my parents' backyard getting married. Your mom was calling it pathetic. I was wondering if we were making a huge mistake. And now? Now we're in Boston, you're doing work you love, I'm teaching kids who need me, and we're actually happy. Not performing happiness for other people. Actually happy. Best decision I ever made, Marcus said. Marrying you in that backyard. Even though my family is weird and we didn't have a cathedral wedding? Especially because of that. He turned to face him. You know what I learned? The people who mattered didn't care where we got married, and the people who cared where we got married didn't matter. Very philosophical. I'm deep now. It's my Boston transformation. I laughed and kissed him. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. This is Rebecca Torres from the Foundation. Catherine gave me your number. We're starting an arts education initiative for underserved schools next year. Would you be interested in consulting? Your perspective as a teacher would be invaluable. I showed Marcus the text. Should I? Are you kidding? Say yes. I typed out a response, then set my phone down. Outside our window, snow was starting to fall, the first of the season. Big, fat flakes that caught the streetlight and turned everything magical. Come here, I said, pulling Marcus to the window. We stood there watching the snow transform the city. 2 people from Charleston learning to love Boston. Building something new while honoring where we came from. My grandmother never lived to see this. She never knew that fixing a pregnant woman's dress would lead to scholarships, to a backyard wedding, to her granddaughter standing in a Boston apartment watching snowfall. But somehow, I felt her presence in all of it. She'd taught me that kindness matters more than status. That doing good work matters more than doing impressive work. That being true to yourself matters more than meeting other people's expectations. Those lessons had carried me through the hardest parts of wedding planning. Through Patricia's criticisms, through moments of doubt. They'd led Marcus and me to this moment, standing in our own apartment, in our own city, living our own lives. Thank you. Grandma, I whispered. Marcus squeezed my hand, understanding without asking. The snow continued to fall, covering everything in white, making the world new again, and we stood there together, grateful for where we'd come from and excited for where we were going. Our wedding may have been called pathetic by people who didn't understand what mattered. But it had been perfect for us, and in the end, that was the only opinion that counted. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.